everybody. Welcome to
Who's that guy?
The Download Youth Ministry web show. Webcast. I'm not used to this yet. Anyway,
This show. Welcome to the show.
Doug Fields here. To my left is the Queen. To your right is the Queen.
And to your left is the Queen.
Josh Griffin.
Hey.
Josh Griffin. And sitting in for
Josh
Matthew.
has something to prove right now.
Okay, McGill.
Oh, McGill got so much skinnier this week. Look at him.
Yeah, and better looking.
Very, very, very attractive.
Anyway, Seth is the executive producer of the podcast, has been for about a year, has sat in a couple times.
I don't know if you noticed.
And remember the first time he sat in?
Oh, God.
Just like,
So nervous.
He was nervous.
Yeah.
And
He was going.
Deer in the headlights, and then turned it on. He was all
well,
over
his
it.
next show, he kind of
I
kicked
think it
back.
was a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He watched,
I'll
he
revise
watched
this
game
how I
film.
want to, okay?
Yeah, well,
Doug took me out in the parking lot, grabbed me by the Gorilla Mask, and said, "You got to bring your better game next time."
Yeah.
he watched game film.
You can't do worse than McGill.
Anyway,
You're
this is
fine.
episode 228. McGill, who cares? He's gone. No,
I care.
we care.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Tough weekend.
Yeah.
Too much
Yeah,
cholesterol.
we really can't tell the story. No, he's out of town flying back tonight.
He got fired. Sorry, you got canned from the show.
Last week, we decided let's do a show on
Like a
volunteers.
themed show.
And we just we picked our best volunteer, and then we kind of talked about the principles we learned from that.
Loved it.
This one, we said we're going to do the worst volunteer.
Absolutely.
And what are the principles? We will change the name to protect the innocent.
Let's just call them all Kevin. Because that's my guy's actual name. Oh, this is going to be awkward
Well,
now.
none of them are around still.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, volunteers. Oh, in that case, I got plenty of stories.
Yeah. So we'll bring the stories. We'll look for the principles. Okay. We'll just tell the story, and then we'll allow Katie, the wisest one, to just find the principle in it.
Love it.
We need to thank U Specialties for being our primary sponsor.
YS,
Thank you.
we love you. Come to NYWC.
Yeah,
National Youth Awards
Josh
Convention.
and I. Would you like to come, Seth?
I'll go.
In Nashville.
Yeah, that'd be
in a few
fun.
weeks.
That'd be great.
Anybody who's a DYM member, we're gonna take out to dinner.
Yeah.
Parker's gonna be there. Parker,
We're
right?
taking everybody
We're
out
taking
for
them
a
out?
steak burrito.
Yeah, those are expensive.
They are, yeah. A chicken burrito.
No, just
taco
bean.
one, soft taco.
Bean. So we're gonna do dinner
70
with
cents.
anybody who's a DYM member in Nashville.
Nashville.
That was
Yeah.
so fun.
I'm so jealous that you guys are being
Why are you coming with?
Aren't you gonna be in
It's
Europe?
gonna be a little trip with my husband.
Oh my goodness.
Little
Taylor
industry
Swift's
trips.
gonna be there. Nashville, guys. I'm gonna be
man.
looking for all my favorite country singers.
What?
Music. No?
Leader tracks.
Scrambled entree.
We love leader tracks.
We love leader tracks.
And who's going to the refuel their retreat?
Oh, we've wanted to forever.
I
thought-
know.
Sounds
I thought
amazing.
I'm sending a couple of my team there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. A couple
Great.
of our high
Yeah,
school
we have an
stuff.
intern. It's going to be
Yeah, we love them. They're also providing student leadership material for all our
Yes.
DYM members every
That's
month.
correct.
Youth Ministry 360, guys that we love, which we need to get together with them in Nashville.
Yes, that'll be fun.
And
Good dude.
Azusa
You wanna go?
Pacific, who paid for our meal in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
The best
They're
hotel
awesome.
pizza we've ever had.
And it was terrible
Oh,
pizza.
man, that was
man.
rough.
Terrible pizza. The
And you
check,
know
Missed out. I missed out on it.
the check
Yeah.
cashed. Thank you, APU, but the pizza was awful.
yeah,
You had-
now that we're
APU
past
had
it.
That's
nothing.
not APU's
No,
fault.
had nothing to do with
They're
that.
amazing.
They
Humankind
paid through the
Water?
nose.
Are they
Humankind
still
Water.
still sponsored?
Still a sponsor. Thank you for putting the water in
Go
this.
buy it at Walmart.
right in here.
Let's build some wells. All right,
Love it.
Josh, let's start with you.
Okay. Guy's name is Kevin, and I'm just going to call him Kevin. You can figure it out. Longtime life group leader, had served for years in our ministry. Really, really sharp guy, wonderful man of God. Started in like the children's program and came up through the children's program. Went through Wildside, our junior high program, and came to high school. And it took his guys, his small group of guys, same dudes, all the way through. So it's like their sophomore year, maybe junior year, I forget. And he's at one of their sporting events, and they're all talking and laughing. The guys won. He's having a great time. And he jokes with them about, hey, we should all go to Hooters to celebrate. Everyone laughs. And then some of the guys go, we really should. Let's go get wings. So they pile into a car, and they drive off to Hooters.
The
Now-
family restaurant.
The family restaurant, yeah, great wings. So he freaks out because he has now suggested this in total jest, and now they're all, whatever, half of his life group is going. So he panics, doesn't know what to do, jumps in the car, goes to Hooters with them, has wings, whatever, goes home, and of course, the rest is history. So families panic, emails, phone calls. It becomes this obviously becomes this uproarious problem that a leader now came up with the idea and took his guys to Hooters for wings. So needless to say, Kevin took a little time off.
But that's not your worst volunteer. There's no way that's your...
It's just an example of leaders make mistakes. And here's the part that I love about Kevin. He's actually now, that was years ago, he has come back year after year to take senior guys
to Hooters.
To Hooters, yeah. Wait till they graduate.
To introduce them to...
He's an
real
unbelievable man he had a lapse in judgment, didn't know what to do, panicked, and he's an experienced pro volunteer. Literally had 10 years of experience at this point, messed up. Here's what I loved about it. He totally owned what he had done. Totally owned it. He called the parent. The reason it spread so fast is he was calling the parents, apologizing, telling them what happened, whatever. Not defending himself, just saying, this is what it is. He let me know before the parents let me know what the problem was, which was a big deal on his part. And he also accepted the consequences of his action, which I thought was really great. So he brought in a sub for a period of time. The year ended. He came back the following year and is literally still an incredible volunteer. But man, did he mess up.
Yeah.
It was painful.
Well, what's so funny is people that are listening, because I have many friends, you've got your conservative churches,
Yeah.
and the continuum goes to more of your liberal churches.
Way out here on Katie's
There's
side.
50% that are listening
Totally.
that we're like, what's the problem with that?
Yeah, what's the big deal?
I don't get
high school guys at Hooters. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
and the other
family
half
restaurant.
are freaking out. Yeah. Well, needless to say,
Really? I mean, high school guys at Hooters, even our most liberal listeners wouldn't be like, that's maybe a something.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Well, here's what I know. In our context, and to the parents, it was an extremely big deal.
Yeah.
It was a lapse in judgment. It was an oversight. What's great about it is he did have all sorts of chips in the bank. I mean, the dude had loved his guys for 10 years. So that was a big win for him. He's a long-term volunteer. He could do no wrong. So when he did wrong, it wasn't nearly as painful. He owned it.
So what's the teaching principle then? What do we transfer? Is that somewhere in your training
Yeah.
you tell that type of story?
Absolutely.
Say kids are going to suggest things like, "Hey, let me drive your car. I realize I'm only 13.
Exactly.
Let's do burnouts in the church parking lot." You know.
Right. So you have to have the leadership to kind of see the good ideas and the bad ideas, how to have fun without going too far, how to be their friend but more than just a friend, to be their leader, to be an adult, to be the responsible person. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just love that he owned it. It helped my job so much, because oftentimes volunteers will just shirk that and leave it on you, or you'll hear about it a week later from 12 angry parents who have torches and a pitchfork, and they're ready to take me down for it. And it was awesome. He just
What if the person serving the food was an old man with a walker? Would you still have got in trouble?
Yes, I think so. I would have.
Depends
on how low his
suggestive
V-neck
is it?
was.
Oh, so this whole time
it's not about the food. Yeah.
Yeah. Delicious food.
Oh, yeah. It's
From what I hear.
It's a family restaurant.
Did he turn in a receipt afterwards? The deal was over.
So I love it. Here's a couple things that we do. I mean, we want to show grace to our volunteers, and so there is a time for discipline. It was definitely not okay for what happened, but he took it really well. He took the consequences really well, and we wanted to demonstrate that he wasn't like the kingdom of God was through with him.
Yeah.
Because he made a goof, and so we helped him walk him back, and he to this day is one of the most incredible leaders that we have in our ministry.
So because of that, if I'm somebody out there sitting out there listening to the story, and I'm thinking, you mean you booted him for a year for that decision?
It was the end of a year, so we would have let him sit out the rest of the year. So probably 7 weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks, then we always take the summer off, so it felt longer.
Yeah.
But it was weighty enough to be like, hey, you know what? This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Let's take off several weeks and then come back next year. We'll talk it through, make sure everyone's in a good place. We're ready to do this. And it was great.
Yeah.
It still is great. I mean, I love Kevin. He's one of my good friends. I mean, Kevin.
Yeah.
His real
I
name's
think
Kevin.
in situations like that, there's no like set time frame. It's always case by case.
Absolutely.
Of,
Yeah,
like-
because
Yeah.
there's part of me that even as I hear that case, I'm going, gosh, if he's such a stud volunteer, I'm going, hey, parents, look, okay, so judgment and error, but he's hanging with your kids. He's doing relational ministry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
He didn't want them to go to Hooters alone.
Yes, he's hanging
wanted
with
to
it,
be
hanging
with
at
them.
Hooters. He has a
No,
new
like-
They
weekly
were going to
event.
see it.
Doing ministry on their turf. It's a very. I get it.
Well,
You got to go to their world.
I do think the distance between when that story unfolded and into the future, that will lose some of its impact, because I don't think things like that will be as big of a deal.
Sure.
But even here in California, even in our church that has a lot of contemporary things or whatever, obviously morality, sexuality, all that stuff's a really big deal, especially to teenage guys and young men.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal, and I think that maybe there's something in there about the punishment needing to fit the crime too. I think that maybe, I'm not sure we did it right, but something in there to go, don't be afraid of taking some time off. Don't be
So,
afraid
are
of.
girls allowed to wear bathing suits at summer camp?
Depends.
What about Halloween?
They're allowed to wear. They're allowed to wear one piece bathing suits.
You got a little bit of red right there.
Wow, that's a difficult subject to talk about with 10,000 of your best friends or
Hooters?
6 Hooters. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I struggle with that exact thing in our youth ministry. Going, wow,
Do you want to confess that right now?
Seth,
I struggle with that.
I struggle
Okay.
I'm a
with
pastor,
the
so yeah.
debate of one pieces and two
Oh,
pieces
okay.
and,
And Hooters.
T-shirts and garbage bags
Yeah.
and going to Hooters for small group and
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not a let's shelter everyone from the world. We go have a great beach day. It's a lot of fun. But I go, man, 2-piece swimsuits. That feels like that's a lot of skin for girls to be showing. It's actually far more than they would have at Hooters. And we can't go to Hooters, but we would definitely go to the beach. That doesn't make
That's
sense.
what I'm pushing a little bit.
I'm with you. I'm totally agreeing that but the perception of the beach where I live, that is not a big deal. The perception of Hooters,
Yeah.
huge deal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Katrina, go.
It was interesting thinking about this because I feel like there's a lot of moments like that where there's, you've been coaching volunteers through tough things, but thinking of like the worst volunteer. So I have 2. Is that
Great.
okay? Okay.
I've got like 9.
I know. Well, I feel like I have a billion of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Billion of those
a
comments
billion
you're
of
pointing to
those.
Josh.
Yeah, wow, okay.
No, a billion of like a one-time volunteer.
Yeah.
story.
Middle schoolers to Hooters. Got it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's run out.
Billions.
Actually, they don't care so much. No, we had a volunteer early on in ministry when I first started. Just a volunteer. She was a mom, not of any students, but she was just of mom age, so she was in her early 40s. And I was younger. I was 18, and
A couple years ago.
a couple years ago. Excuse me, no, I was 21. It was right when I came on staff. So I was 21, she was 40. And she just was a volunteer who had her own agenda. So had her own way of how she thought our junior high ministry should be run. She had a certain way. We had an issue with students smoking pot down in the ravine. Do you remember that? Like early on, the
Yep.
kind of ravine behind our church, there was kids that would show up and
Yep.
want to smoke down there.
Yeah.
Still have that
Dressed in Hooters outfits.
Exactly.
One of them grew up to be
So-
Seth Bartlett. So
One Wednesday night, our junior high pastor at the time had gone down there just to he always went down just to say hi to kids down there, and she was down there smoking
Supposed to
with
hold
them.
it like this.
Yeah, she was down there sitting with them and smoking with them and that kind of thing, and so that was like,
Smoking pot with them?
well, I don't know if it was.
it was a
what it was.
mysterious.
I'm not sure. I'm
Somewhere
not sure.
between a joint and a clove.
Yeah, something, maybe a pipe. We'll see. But anyway,
Crack
so
pipe in
she
the-
came
in
back
the
up
ravine.
after our time together. Me, him, and her sat down after our Wednesday night program, and we're like, "Hey, what's happening? What's going on?"
You know you were smoking down there, right?
And she just was like, well, this is the way that we're going to reach teenagers is, smoking with them, being in the middle of them. And so there was this heart behind it that was right. But then again, everything that we were doing, she was in opposition of. And so it just felt like it was always kind of this is what she was going to do regardless of what was happening over here. So, and I felt it was weird. At 21, I felt just so young and not unsure of myself in this area of volunteers.
And
But
interested in smoking.
totally.
and-
Still
but
struggling.
knew that this was not okay. Like everything that was happening with her, not just the smoking part, but even
Sure.
just the fact that everything was like, this isn't how we should be doing it. This isn't how you should be doing it. You should be teaching this. You should be doing this.
Yeah.
So it just was really early on, just a tough scenario. And so, and to this day, she's somebody that I really remember as a volunteer because I just remember thinking, gosh, the people on our team need to be excited about what's happening and need to believe in us and believe in what's going on. And even if there's disagreeing, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing. But it just was that just feeling of like, I'm doing it this way, you're doing it this way. I'm doing it better than you guys are doing.
Did you let her go? I missed that part of the story.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, well, after that night, the pastor actually at the time told her to take a break, and then she never came back. So
She's super mellow about it.
she was. No,
She wanted to meet at Taco Bell.
totally, it was weird. He asked her to take a break just actually for a couple of weeks and then to come back and have another conversation
great.
just once we paused, but then we never saw her again.
Yeah.
So it
at
was
church
just,
even, or just no idea?
at church.
Well,
like
she was down in the ravine.
Totally. But I
Wow.
remember, two things about this. Number one, when you're young and working with volunteers, there's definitely that intimidation factor or that feeling of like, do I really know what I'm talking about? No, I know this isn't okay.
Yeah.
So even following your instincts, however young you might be, you might need help articulating those or communicating those feelings. But I remember thinking like, okay, it's okay that I think that I disagree with what's going on, and not even just the smoking thing. Like I said, I didn't think it was okay. Just all of her, coming back at us with, this is not right. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. That kind of thing. So that part of it of being young and realizing like, okay, I do have good instincts and to follow those. And then the second part being, you just can't have people on your team that don't believe in what's going on. Totally okay to have disagreeing happening or like, gosh, that's not how I would do it, but I'm all in. And so really learning to build a team of people that believe in the vision and believe what you're about. And
Okay, so the people that are listening, maybe that are on the younger side, and they're going, "That's what I want, Katie." But how do I get that?
well, I think that's something that we communicate from the very first time we're together with volunteers. So when I'm sitting
Before they're even volunteers.
before they're even a part of our team, when we do a one-on-one interview, that's just to get to know you. It's not an interview for a job, but it's an interview to be a part of life with us and with students. So it's a really important time to establish, this is what our ministry is about. This is what, it's a great get to know you time, but it's also here's what you're stepping into and here's what we're asking of you, expectations, commitments, things like that. So that one-on-one time, adding people to your team is so important.
Yeah. This is where a live show would be really fun right now with some of these scenarios, because people are thinking through some, well, what would you do there? What if, and how do I?
For sure. Especially in this area of volunteers. There's just so many different
Well, I think that initial meeting, the clearer we can be on vision and expectations and role.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of making that up.
No, I think that's good.
Will you write that for me?
Seriously.
Here's where we're about.
Vision's expectation role.
Here's what we're about.
Had it be in the-
Here's the expectation that we have
Of you.
and then here's the role you play to
fulfill that
and there are going to be times when you don't see things eye to eye with us, and here's the best scenario to do that is to pull me aside afterwards, or let's have a conversation. But ultimately,
Or just keep it to yourself and shut up.
This woman was an existing
without
volunteer.
becoming bitter.
Yeah, totally. This woman was an existing volunteer when our pastor started.
Yeah.
And so, even in that scenario, when you're walking into a team of existing volunteers, sometimes you have to go back to the beginning with all of them at the same time and almost have this conversation of vision, expectation, role. Even if you are new and you have someone who's been on the team for 10 years, you still have to kind of go back to the beginning and do that with everybody from the new leadership's perspective.
Regardless of how old you are. And
Absolutely.
the younger you are, the more intimidated you feel. But it is a let's re-articulate the vision. In some ways this sounds crude and I don't mean it like this, but there's a new sheriff in town.
Sure. Sure.
And the new sheriff brings in some new expectations. So let's revisit these. And boy, I know I'm so thankful for the commitment you have made to the youth ministry in the past, and would love for you to continue. But if you can't stack hands with us and
Sure.
support the direction where we're going, we're gonna have a problem. There's obviously a reason, if I'm the leader, that the church has brought me in.
Totally.
And the way you can say that in the most humble way and gentle way, if you could even have your pastor,
Yes, just
come in
thinking that.
and say, we're so excited that Katie is here, and Katie may be doing things different than you did in the past,
Than
and if you don't want to be a part
Might
of
have
that,
been okay to smoke pot. It's not now.
yeah,
was
you
totally
may not.
That was the old regime.
You may hear Katie's vision, and you may not want to be a part of it, and that's okay. And as your pastor, I just want to let you know I'm letting Katie run this, and then if I need to get you involved in another area of ministry, come see me. Let's
We
do
need
that.
That would be amazing as a new leader to have your senior pastor come in.
Well, and don't you think, go to your senior pastor as well and communicate to him or her your vision, your direction, your methodology, your philosophy. Because if there's a gap between you and your senior pastor, when those people get bitter, angry, disappointed, conflicting vision, they're going to go right around you to the top.
Not in the church.
No, I know, it sounds impossible, but every once in a while, and if they're not prepared and backing up that vision, they're going to be like, yeah, why aren't we reaching non-believing kids, or why are kids smoking pot in the ravine, or whatever? Like, I think you've got to have that support from the top.
Well, and it's nice to pull in another veteran volunteer, which I know you modeled for us kind of when you came, of making sure that you met even with a couple of veterans ahead of time one-on-one before you collectively cast the vision. I think that's a great thing when a new regime is taking over too, of just valuing the people that have been around a while and giving them a chance one-on-one to kind of come to grips with the new vision, and then allowing them to like spread great positive word of mouth too. So I would just say, if you're a younger youth worker, to even filter, find either the senior pastor or veteran youth worker, somebody that you can filter. Learning to articulate vision, I think, is a tough thing. So having someone help you form that and articulate that's important.
Yeah. Good.
So
Good. How about you, Seth?
I am thinking through a few different stories, and with that, we had a really great church, really cool setting. I would call it like a middle-sized church, about 500, 700 people there. So when it came time to recruiting volunteers, a lot of times what we would do is we'd have like these annual events where I'd get in front of the entire congregation and make the sales pitch. Like, hey, come to youth ministry, it's the promised land, any help's great help, that kind of thing. And so it was a little bit of a learning for myself, too, of how that's not always the best idea, right? And so you get folks coming that are interested in serving. Okay, yeah, I have a heart for teens, but might not be the best fit. And so I mean, some of the most vivid stories are stories of people who just weren't a great fit, mostly based on the personality side, where it's kind of like when you do worship team tryouts for your youth worship team, and a person really wants to be involved, but they should probably be involved with the greeting ministry. This kind of thing, where this mom who's got older kids, she's a little bit more traditional than what we'd been doing in our ministry, came and said, I really want to teach the Sunday school. This is what's on my heart. I really care for the teens. I want them to have solid biblical. And it's like, well, great. I want to see you get to that spot. That would be great.
I can see you too.
I know, right? So
bringing them in.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, if you don't, Seth is just the nicest human alive. So I can just see him going.
Just think of like McGill, but nice.
what do you think my one-word response to her was?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's get you plugged in. So that lasts about 3 weeks, and I mean, I would like poke my head in, and kids were just bored to tears. They were falling asleep, and she just kind of had her style of teaching. So
The Pentateuch is important. Do not forget that.
the Torah. We went through it all, but she had a great heart, and she wasn't seeing
Code word for terrible volunteer.
God bless her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she was really, like, I was actually inspired that she wanted to be involved, right? But the kids were just tuning out, not showing up. She eventually got frustrated too, because she's like, I'm not connecting, kind of thing. And it was just a classic example.
Self-aware, though.
Yep. Classic example of not a perfect fit. I told her this, it's more my fault than anything. But I was trying to find ways to still redeem the situation.
Yeah.
Here, try some of this curriculum that was made in this decade. Just see if this stuff works a little bit better.
It's video, so you really don't have to teach.
You don't even really have to be there. Just stay home if you want.
Hit the lights, pass out some marijuana. The kids will be
Go to the ravine.
So there's like two different stories of that. That was a classic older mom wanting to get involved with the teens. But I've had a fair share of younger college students. We had a local college nearby, and so our church was affiliated with the Christian school. So you'd probably be thinking, hey, this is a gold mine for volunteers.
All those
So the
volunteers.
connection, new freshmen would come into school, they'd want to check out area churches, and then, I went to youth ministry, I want to be involved in youth ministry. So in a lot of ways, that was a huge plus, and it was great. So we kind of got to feed that pipeline, and then through that, I think the recurring problem we kept running into is kids just, volunteers, dying to be friends with those kids. And so they were doing anything at all costs to be friends, and then found out it was really hard to be a leader, because they went in joking with them, hanging with them, doing everything.
Being a kid.
Yeah, being a kid, and they come frustrated. Hey, they're not listening to my lessons. I'm trying to teach them, and so that was like, I know that's, I'm already.
You know that feeling.
I totally understand. I've had a lot of people
Say that to you.
say that to me as I led them astray.
Yeah, so I mean, those were some that didn't last long. They were in for a couple months, got frustrated that they couldn't gain that perspective. Some of them we were able to kind of work through that, redeem the situation, help equip them, get them set up. But I remember looking back at those times, like when we talk about the VER principle that you guys might be familiar with. I had gone. I went heavy.
Trademark.
I went. Yeah. TM.
Josh already
I just blogged about
he
it already.
blogged about it.
Yeah. It's done. I'd go heavy with vision, but I wasn't great on the expectation side, and so that was something it was kind of like that learning where I need to be more clear. It's way better to be specific and clear with these things up front, because we just keep running this thing over and over and over again. And they're getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated. Like at the end of the day, everyone's frustrated, and that doesn't make for a good situation. And so the roles getting more clear still comes down to fit. So I feel like I ran into a lot of fit things that just weren't ideal. The sad thing was they were really good people with good hearts, and you want to see them get plugged in, but it just wasn't. Youth ministry wasn't the perfect fit.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of the learning. I had different moments. I mean, we could talk for hours on moments.
Yeah,
Like I was just when you were starting to tell that story, I was like, oh, we could talk for a while. Those are fun.
Yeah.
Love it. What do you got, Fields?
Well, I got a bunch of stories as well, but I'll tell you the one that, like last week when we talked about, okay, let's do negatives. I think we were even talking about doing positive and negatives in the same show, and the negative, I just have like a least favorite volunteer, and mostly because he was just so negative.
Yeah.
And I let it go for a while because his performance was off the charts. He was amazing. He had kids over at his house all the time. He was a great small group leader. He was awesome. And I think in Purpose Driven Youth Ministry, or first 2 years, I can't remember, I write about attitude, performance, and fit. And this is where
Chapter 4, first 2 years.
this is where I
Page
actually
96? So good.
I thought that was surreal. I was like, oh my gosh, Seth.
The word of the Lord in the first 2 years. Read them every day. The Message paraphrase, and then Doug's books.
Well, I developed that based on this guy because he had performance was great. He fit as part of our team, but his attitude was awful. So he's just really, really negative. But he wasn't negative to me.
Oh.
So it was that type of thing. We oftentimes as leaders we find that people are one way to us, but they're so I would just keep hearing about it from other people.
You're going, "What's
and
the
then
deal?"
when I talked to him about it, he'd sing a different tune. So we had to have a little come to Jesus with Doug meeting, and it was a hard one. I mean, when I talk about, when I train youth workers and they go, that's going to be a hard conversation, I call those diarrhea conversations, because I think I had diarrhea for a week before this meeting. I mean, we set the meeting
When you're sick
Oh,
to your
weeks?
stomach too.
on Sunday. Yeah, we couldn't meet,
Oh.
and so once the meeting was
stressed
set,
me out.
it was like 8 days later before we could meet.
It
And
needs to be 8 hours at the most. 'Cause you're like,
well, and he doesn't have, he's just thinking
doesn't
it's like,
know.
hey,
Yeah,
it's,
buy me
it's
coffee,
my 90-day checkup with Doug or something like
Right.
that. I can't meet this week, and and I'm meeting to let him go. Not because his performance and not because his fit, but he had just a terrible attitude. So, but one of the things that happened in that meeting is, I basically said we need to go our separate directions in this, and here's why. And I had all these, I had 10 specific examples of his attitude, and in some ways some kind of insubordination type stuff, and he just started crying.
Crap.
And this is, guy older than me, grown guy, kids, the whole bit, but he, one of the things that I've talked about, and again, I've learned so much from this guy, is that when bad stuff is happening in your life, and your life is not going well, you try to find some place where you can assert some type of authority or be kind of the man or the woman somewhere. And this was a little subculture where he became somebody.
Yeah.
So he was real effective. People looked up to him. They liked him. Kids were attracted to him a little bit. And it was a little bit of this power thing, and he was broken.
Oh,
and
he
so,
lost it.
This tears it was like, I am not, kind of after a while, he denied, and then I just kept supporting. I just had done my homework, and I had, 8 days of diarrhea to prove that. But I was ready. I was ready for the showdown.
Sure.
And he broke down, and it actually became a very, very healing deal. And he came back, gave him some, I can't remember how much time off I gave him, whether a semester or something like that. But he came back and he was a different guy. Just a different guy. But he was defensive when we met, and the whole bit. And I strategically met in a restaurant because I just wanted it to be kind of neutral ground.
Yeah.
Let's just go, because he had a real competitive athletic background, and he was real fiery, and so anyway. But great guy, good youth worker.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you take the attitude piece out.
Right.
But really, and I say this all the time. Just I can teach somebody youth ministry. So performance.
Sure.
Give me somebody with a great attitude that loves Jesus and likes kids. Then we can teach them performance.
For sure.
We can help them find their fit, even though Seth wasn't able to in his situation. But we can.
Or Matt.
We can help them find their fit. But,
I thought that story was about Matt.
And then I told Matt. Sorry, Matt. That's the third
just
jab.
Stop.
Yeah,
A
you're
little
just
bit of pent up.
you're assuming Matt's even going to watch this.
Yeah, no,
which-
He might.
No, he won't.
That's a good principle too, of just there's so much. Our volunteers there's a ministry to our volunteers that's, that, we need to be having those tough conversations, or when we see those things, understanding there's, just like our students, there's things that are underlying
Absolutely.
that, as their leadership, we could be some of the only people that are pointing out
Yeah.
in loving truth some of the things that, need to change.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, I think you said it well, because that was one of the things that he has said. I've been like this for years, and nobody has ever called me on it. He goes, I do it. I avoid my boss, which in the marketplace, I avoid my boss, and I do, complain to all the coworkers. He goes, I've just learned how to kind of live in this world and be negative. I'm doing for our monthly membership, I'm doing the video training is about how to keep from burning out. And the metaphor I give is a marathon. Youth ministry is a marathon, not a sprint. But really, we've got to treat it a little bit like a triathlon, in that you really have to be good. A real triathlon is a marathon plus 112 miles of biking and 2-point-something swimming. So they're all.
Or it's a relaxing afternoon in front of the TV as you watch the triathlon.
Exactly. But our volunteers, they're running triathlons with their life.
Absolutely.
So they've
Different
got
skills,
40 or
different-
50 hours in the marketplace. They've got their own family life, and then we throw youth ministry on top of it.
Sure.
Their ministry in the church, and you're really asking people to be good time managers, have good people skills, have a caring heart. You put a lot of task on people to serve and point kids to Jesus.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think ultimately it is. I think the biggest thing that I've learned with, negative, bad volunteers is work harder to get to know their story. Because so often as leaders, we want to fill a spot. So I need a Sunday school teacher. I need a small group leader. I need a this. I need a that.
Are you breathing?
Done.
Do you have a Bible? I can get you one.
Well, that's tough.
So you fill the spot. It's like I check it off, and then I go to the next thing on my to-do list. And in some ways, I don't lovingly value that person and hold their hand and care for them, how they need to be cared for. I cut you off, sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, that pressure of filling the spot is not just coming from us, coming from the church and parents.
Yeah.
And so it is so easy to get caught in that and not take the time to really know people or continue to know people. Because even the first impression in that first meeting could be stellar, which I feel like that has been a negative thing for us.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, our volunteers, I've become wary of volunteers that jump in too quick, full steam. Like, make a great first impression, jump all
Hungry,
in, do
going for it,
everything, and I'm like a little bit like, okay, hang on a second, let's because then eventually a lot of those guys kind of
disappear,
flake,
absolutely.
or the more we get to learn their story, we realize, oh gosh, you have a lot of stuff. You just make a really great first impression.
Yeah,
so I think taking the time to know people over time is big.
Love it.
That's good. That's good.
We have all sorts of volunteer great moments. I mean, I feel like all the time we have great stories and we're living it every day. It's not like
it's youth ministry.
This is we're walking through one right now with our volunteers that I can't speak of the details obviously, but a couple of our leaders they're taking some time off from a huge mistake they made, and there's another one with big drama in their family and asked for time. I mean, volunteers are like we have highs and we have lows, and oftentimes at the same time. It's nuts. It is a big task of youth ministry, running a volunteer team alone. Forget everything else. It's big.
I was speaking at a church this weekend, and I was talking to one of their leaders, and they were telling me their attendance ratio to their staff.
Yeah.
And they just had a ton of staff for the amount of kids that they have. Paid youth workers. And I thought, it's a little bit easier, you're making life a little bit easier for that ministry.
Right.
But you've got all these incredible people that are sitting in the church that should be serving.
Right.
You're not a good steward of the money that's coming in. But I understand it's easier just to hire people than to develop volunteers. Most churches can't do that. But I think that one of the biggest skills, Katie and I wrote a book on this because we care so deeply about it, is you got to train volunteers, you got to keep them, you got to value them, they are the backbone of a youth ministry, and that's what drives me crazy when churches are like, give me a 22-year-old. I want somebody young who's got a lot of energy.
I still hear that all the time.
Great.
Yeah.
Don't give me
You know what's funny though?
My daughter's a 24-year-old, and I don't want to say. And Emma, sweet Emma, who you brought to watch the show last time, she's a great youth worker, but they just don't have the experience to understand that the ministry has to be larger than themselves, and that volunteers are, and maybe they do understand it philosophically. Sure. It is really now going, okay, if I'm really going to care for these kids, I got to go help leaders.
Yeah.
I gotta. It's it's a bait and switch I talk about.
Totally.
But it's like a switch that I think flips in your mind at some point as a youth worker. Like volunteers has been hammered into my mind from the get-go. I mean, I was a volunteer. I started as a volunteer, and even coming on staff and being on your staff, hammered. But I don't know who it was, maybe in one of our team meetings at some point, of saying, you have the students that you love so deeply, but they're, you have to figure out how to multiply you. Yeah. If you really love students, then you love all of them, and we have a county full of lost students, and if I'm only good for about 12, 10 to 12, well, maybe 8, and
I was gonna say 12. That was
I know, that's what I
he was God, and he lost one.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I think, and maybe you guys
4 and 4, we make it.
That's only gonna be funny on video.
I know. Sorry, audio podcasters.
No, I think
You can't get our show on iTunes.
I've tried. It's failed. It's over.
No, it's not. We're gonna get
work on it.
Yeah, that actually all points back to Seth, doesn't it?
It does. I'm just looked square into his soul. Thought to myself, fantastic. Hey, I'm sorry, Doug cut you off.
No, it's fine. Multiplying yourself.
Yeah.
Flipping your switch. Making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were teaching first 2 years together, that seminar at the National Youth Workers Convention in San Diego, and these sweet young couple, newly married, fresh in youth ministry, walked up and they were like, volunteers. Wow. Okay. we got to start on that. I have never. They were just like blown away
Tell me
that
more.
they could get other people
Yeah.
to help with
Yeah.
youth ministry, and I was like, wow, this is a good moment because
Totally. That will
it-
change their ministry.
it will. If it rises and falls on you, it will fall on you. That's all there is to it. There is no rise, or maybe it's temporary. Volunteer, great people around you doing great.
Actually,
great
the
youth
volunteers
ministry.
chapter in first year is probably one of the best chapters on volunteer ministry, I think, that you could read in any youth ministry book.
Favorite paragraph, number 3.
Page 96. Just rip it out. Then you
I
buy
mean,
the book.
we've
It's
written
fine.
so much training out of that chapter,
Yeah.
just for our own volunteers,
Yeah.
for us, for our teams, things
Yeah,
like that.
I rip it off and blog about it all the time. Pretend it's my own. It's good stuff.
I need to do that more.
All right. We have gone over our allotted time,
Did
and it
we?
doesn't even
Yeah.
feel like
Oh,
it.
it was a fun show.
We didn't get to any questions. Oh, wait, we weren't doing
We were.
questions.
Come on. Come on.
There was 2 weeks without questions, so here's the deal.
Wow. Send
I
some
mean, no, we
questions
in.
we have questions.
Yeah.
2 weeks that we haven't talked
Use
about
them.
them.
Yeah. Sorry.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll go back to questions on
Next week
show
we'll talk
number
about-
229.
Next week we'll talk
I
about
kind of
mediocre
like-
volunteers. I love men.
Take a leave.
yeah.
I kind of like changing it up.
I
every
do too.
once in a
We
while.
need to
too.
reinvent this a little bit.
I
We're
agree.
actually, Katie, while you're on vacation,
Oh, yes.
we're going to have a backdrop. The next show,
The next show.
we are going
new set.
to the 4 of us boys here
I
are
can't
going to
wait.
IKEA.
Top dollar.
Tonight?
We're going
IKEA.
to Taco
can't
Bell. We're
I
going to go
thought
to
it was
Ravine.
In-N-Out.
Ravine for a little while. We're going to IKEA.
Yeah, we're gonna have a backdrop.
Meeting
It's
in
happening.
Ravine.
It's
we
I
are
can't
wait,
decorating
I'm
the
so
podcast
excited.
studio.
Yeah.
Did you say
Yeah, we
decorating?
kind of been waiting on Parker to do it. And look what we got.
Yeah, we got Doug's books for 12 weeks now or whatever.
Yeah.
well.
Parker
That's
just told
right.
you to shut up.
Good to see you. Love your volunteers. Train your
Say hello
volunteers.
next time,
Yeah. Hey,
Parker.
when you write in your questions, remember start with "Sorry you got canned, Matt." Anything related to that, and let us know that you're a member. If you're a DYM member, we'd love hearing that. Right, Seth?
We love it. Absolutely. Let
right.
us know.
Done. and
Sorry to bother
done.
you, Josh.
Hey, we're wrapping it up.
Okay. Love you guys.
See ya.